What if the season you're in isn't meant to break you, but build you? Somewhere between faith, fear, growth, and becoming is where the real conversations happen. This is a space for honesty, healing, purpose, and learning how to walk with God in real life. This is Between Me and Thee.
Hey y'all, I'm your host Danelia, and this is a space where faith is alive, love is loud, and purpose is powerful. Let's get right into it. Our song of the week is Close by Marvin Sapp. Very beautiful song, very on-time song for this word. Scripture of the week is going to be Mark 5:25 through 34. A woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She had suffered a great deal from many doctors, and over the years, she had spent everything she had to pay them. But she had gotten no better. In fact, she had gotten worse. She had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. For she thought to herself, if I can just touch his robe, I will be healed. Immediately, the bleeding stopped, and she could feel in her body that she had been healed of her terrible condition. Jesus realized at once that healing power had gone out from him, so he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?" His disciples said to him, "Look at this crowd pressing around you. How can you ask, 'Who touched me?'" But he kept on looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees in front of him and told him what she had done. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over." Recently, as I was at work, I was just sitting idle, and I had a good view, and I just happened to look out at this building that I'm familiar with, right? And I was just thinking about this building and just what I noticed about the building and what I liked about it, right? And I went back in my mind. I was just thinking about how when we're in a familiar place, when we grow up in a place that we've lived in, we were raised there, we've lived there all our lives, right? We went to elementary school, middle school, high school. You have your community, you have your family, your church, your friends, whatever and whoever you're connected to. You have the places that you go to, the stores that you are familiar with, the places that you frequent often, or that you go often, right? And I just think about how when we grow up in a familiar place, it's familiar territory. We can tell someone, just about anything they need to know about the place that we grew up and were raised in, right? We could probably give someone directions with our eyes closed or, in the dark. We can tell them what places used to be other places, right? Like this grocery store used to be a clothing store. Or we can tell them that, before that was a home, it was actually a restaurant. We can tell them all types of things about the place that we grew up in, the place that we lived, the place that we went to, what we're familiar with in that place that we live. We know where the back roads are. We know where the shortcuts are. We know that, if you go on a certain road, it's some potholes that will unlock the doors for you. We know all of these things about the place that we grew up in, the place that we were raised in, whatever it is that is familiar to us from our upbringing, right? However, when we are vacationing or when we travel or even when we relocate, we are now in a place that we're not familiar with, right? We have to learn this place. We have to get familiar with this place we're now in. And it's not as easy as being familiar with the place that we are or were when we grew up or were coming up, right? I heard it mentioned before that when you are a child or when you are growing up, it's easier to learn and grasp new concepts, new things, new skills, all these things. But as you're getting older, it becomes harder to learn new things, and you have to be more intentional about your effort toward learning new things. So this goes for visiting a place or relocating, right? You don't know the landmarks. We don't know the back roads, the shortcuts. We don't know the people, the popular places, the best places to shop, the best places to eat. We don't know any of these things when we are going to a place that we've either never been, we've been, but we haven't been often, or we don't spend much time at that place, So we don't know all of those things that we know from our hometown, those things that we know from when we were coming up, right? But the longer you stay in a place, the more familiar you become. And an example is the building that I have become familiar with in my city. There's this building that when I first moved here and I saw it at night, sometimes it would either be if I was walking or whether I was driving, just whatever it would be. When I saw this building at night, I just was immediately drawn to it. And I was drawn to it because at nighttime it lights up so beautifully, right? And I mean, the whole building itself is one color, and then the very top of the building is a total different color. And then even above that, there's like this one part of it that's just blinking, and it's a different color. And so I am a look at the sky type of girl. I am a sunset type of girl. I am a, oh, that's a beautiful view type of girl. Just all of that. I like a night city view. I like a moonlit. I am just that type of girl. So I was immediately drawn to this building because it was just lit up so beautifully, right? And because I was drawn to this building, I'm also able to identify where I am. So I often still use my map. Don't judge me, judge your mama. Now, I often still use my map, right? Because I'm still in an unfamiliar place. Though I now live in this place, there are still places I'm not familiar with. And this place is bigger than what I am used to. It is bigger than where I grew up. It is bigger than my norm, right? So there's so much more that I have to understand and discover and see and learn than things that I am familiar with or knew growing up, right? And so I still use my map. And if at any time that I'm driving or I'm out or I have to go to somewhere that's outside of my area, my city, the place that I live, right, I have to use my map because I'm not familiar. And also, this is a judgment-free zone. This is a safe space, y'all. Geography just wasn't my strongest subject. I know. I am working on it. But geography wasn't my strongest subject. So please cool out. Not too much on me now. Okay. But if I'm using my map and I'm on my way home and I have that GPS on and I see that building, then I now know where I am. I now know that I'm in close proximity to where I live, to my home. I now know what exit to use to get home, what turn to take. I know where I am and I can turn off my GPS. And it's because of this building that has now become a landmark for me. And so it's not just a beautiful structure anymore, right? It's a sign. It's a marker. It is a reminder that I am almost home. I literally will be driving and I'll see this building. I say, oh, well, I know where I am. I can go ahead and turn the map off. I know what my next exit is, and I know where to turn from there. I know exactly how to get home from there, right? So this building now has a significant meaning for how close I am to getting home, right? When I see that building, I know that I'm home. I know where I'm headed. I know what's ahead. I know what's nearby. I know where my safety is. I know where my resources are. And I know where home is. What's most interesting about proximity is that it changes your confidence, right? And so when you are far from something, you are uncertain, you don't feel safe, you start questioning your directions, you wonder if you're going the right way. But when you are close to something, you move differently, right? You recognize the signs, you recognize the landmarks, you recognize the voice, you recognize where you are and where you're going, what's ahead. You know what potholes are there. You know where the road is not the best. You know where the police may be sitting watching to get somebody. you know all of these things. You know what's ahead, right? But many of us have experienced seasons where we felt like lost spiritually, not because God moved, but because we drifted from our close proximity to him. And maybe life happened. Maybe church hurt, maybe sin happened, maybe exhaustion happened, maybe distractions happened, maybe disappointment happened. Whatever it was that caused you to drift away from your proximity to God, distance will always affect our perspective, right? And so the more we drift from God, the harder it becomes to recognize his voice. The more we drift from God, the more we begin to rely on our own understanding, which we're not supposed to do according to biblical principles, right? The more that we drift from God, the more isolated we feel, the more confused we become, the more anxious we become. And then we start asking our questions like, God, are you there? God, can you still hear me? God, why is this happening to me? Why am I still here? Why am I stuck? Why haven't I moved? Why haven't the dreams come true? Why haven't The gift that you gave me to operate in, why hasn't it opened doors for me? Why hasn't my gift made room for me? We start asking ourselves these questions because we have drifted away from our proximity to God. But what if instead of asking where God is, we've shifted our perspective and we ask the question, how close are we to him? Right? Because God never stopped being God. He never stopped being faithful, and he never stopped being present. Sometimes we've drifted away from the place where we can clearly recognize him, right? And it's like I said, it's not that God moved, it's just that we've drifted away. We are the ones who have suddenly relocated. We are the ones who have suddenly went into unfamiliar territory. And that brings us back to Mark 5, right? In this chapter is the woman who has suffered for 12 years, y'all, with the issue of blood. Okay, we're talking 12 years of pain, 12 years of disappointment, 12 years of trying to figure it out, 12 years or searching for the answer, of spending her resources, feeling isolated, of being considered unclean, right? And living outside of the life she was meant to live. 12 years of all of this, 12 years of all of this disappointment, of all of that, being isolated, feeling unclean or being recognized as unclean, not having what she needs to get better, 12 years of suffering, right? And the scripture tells us she went to many physicians and even spent everything she had and still got worse. For these 12 years, this is what this woman experienced, right? And if we're being honest, many of us knows what that feels like. Right? We tried everything, right? And because it's not always, we may not have suffered like she did. We may not have been physically sick, right? But we went through different things. We tried everything. We listened to every podcast. We listened to every sermon. We talked to every friend. We chased every opportunity. We tried to fix ourselves. We tried to save ourselves. And we tried to fill the void with everything except the one. The one who can heal us, the one who can deliver us, and the one who can restore us, right? Still feeling empty, still feeling stuck, and still feeling disappointment. What a life to live, right? But everything changed when the woman heard Jesus was nearby. Healing did not just start when she touched the hem of his garment, as the King James Version states it, right? Healing started when the woman heard that Jesus was nearby. It began when she moved toward him. It began when her miracle was connected to proximity. So the closer she got to Jesus, that's already, her healing process was already started. The closer she got, the closer was her breakthrough was. The closer she got, the closer her healing was. The closer she got, the closer her answer was. Her healing didn't just start when she actually got in the room and when she touched Jesus' hem of his garment, when she touched his robe. It started the moment that she started moving toward Jesus, right? And isn't that just like God? The closer we get to him, the more clearly we hear him, the more we understand our purpose, the more peace we experience, the more protection we have, and the more we recognize his hand in our lives, right? And just like that building is a landmark for me, signifying I'm almost home, we have landmarks in our spiritual relationship with God. Prayer is a landmark. Worship is a landmark. His voice, his presence, his peace. All these things become familiar landmarks for us. And when we take the wrong exit or miss our turn in life, these spiritual landmarks remind us where we are and how to get back home, right? Because proximity provides access. Proximity provides direction. It provides protection. And it provides relationship. And relationship provides everything we need. Relationship to God, more specifically. The woman didn't need to know everything about Jesus. She didn't have to have a perfect plan or have all of the answers. She just needed to get close enough to reach him, right? And that's where she would find her healing. Her proximity to Jesus is what got her healing, right? And maybe that's what you need to hear on today. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to clean yourself up first. You don't have to know every scripture. You don't even have to know what the next 5 years look like, right? You need to get closer. Open the Bible again. Pray again. Worship again. Seek him again. Trust him again and move toward him again. Because what you're looking for may not be found in another strategy, another resource, another opportunity, or even another person, right? It may be found in close proximity to God. Just like that building reminds me I'm almost home, God's presence reminds us where we belong. Not lost, not abandoned, not forgotten, not disconnected, but home. So whatever your circumstance is, whatever your thought process is, whatever the feeling is, whatever it looks like right now, that could all be changed by your proximity to God. If you're not in close proximity, maybe you are experiencing what you are experiencing because you're not where you need to be with God, right? And this is not a judgment call. This is encouragement for you to get back in close proximity to God, right? And I'm not coming at you. I'm not speaking at you. I'm speaking to you from experience, and I'm speaking to you as I'm speaking to myself, right? Because there are sometimes we experience life and life just has the best of us. Life just has the best of us. Even before recording this episode, I have had a pretty quiet day. Okay? I've had a pretty quiet day because I just wasn't feeling it. Like, I'm not feeling well physically, but I'm not feeling well physically because I'm not feeling well spiritually. Right? And so God gave me this in close proximity. The title of this episode, he gave this to me at the beginning of the week. And I went to church today and she preached. One of our pastors, she preached about proximity, which was so crazy because I had already started mapping out the episode. I had already started putting the points together. I had already come up with the leading idea, which was the landmark, the building. I had already thought about the familiarity of where we grow up and all the things. And then I get to church and she preaches about that. And proximity wasn't the title or wasn't the main point of what she was preaching, but it was the connection to what she was preaching. And I just couldn't help but realize that, first off, God was speaking to me. He's like, this is what I'm trying to remind you. Everything that you are experiencing, every area of your life where you feel like it's not changing, every area of your life where you feel like you're stuck, where you feel like, God, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? What's next? Or how do I continue to move from here? What do you want from me? Everything that you're seeking or asking God for or about is connected to your proximity to God. And I know, as I've stated before, I have not been as consistent as I need to be. And I have been working on that. But I'm still not where I need to be, right? And I am one of those people. I'm very honest with people. I tell people all the time if I'm giving advice or if I'm just talking to someone, we're just talking about life, right? I tell people all the time, I know that there are things in my life and areas of my life that would shift and change for the better, for all that God has for me, if I would come up to where God has called me. Right? And the reality is we don't always want the responsibility of what God has called us to. But we can choose to step up to what God has called us to, or we can choose to continue to suffer in being stuck in a place, right? And I understand and I know that first off, we don't have time to waste. And I'd rather not be stuck. I'd rather see my life shift for the better, right? And so in order for that to happen, I have to come up to what God has called me to, where God has called me to. And in order to do that, I have to have a relationship with God, because anything that I step into and walk into and I'm not connected to God in, it's going to fail every time. Right? So I need to be in close proximity to God to walk out the life that God has destined for me. So my encouragement for you today is to get in close proximity with God. Pick up your word again. Find your worship again. Get your peace again. Get your joy back. Do what you need to do to be in close proximity to God. I love y'all. Have a good rest of your day.
This is a space for honesty, healing, purpose, and learning how to walk with God in real life. This is Between Me and Thee.